Hello everyone, my name is Nike, and today I want to share you my final projects in the course Germany 3252. My topic is about the war's destruction and the lives swept around by the history. I want to share you some opinions behind the history. And in the first picture, we can see two photos. The first one is about the Holocaust Memorial, which is in Berlin, and photoed by John Gunter in 2017. And the second one is about Nanjing Massacre Memorial Hall in Nanjing, which is provided by Nanjing government in 2024. It's also in my hometown. These two photos both want to express the memory about the World War II, the pain and the chase about peace. This presentation examines how most readers and the historical accounts of the Nanjing Massacre reveal the devastating impact of the war and the way ordinary individuals are swept into violent historical forces. Although these stories arise from different cultures and political contexts, they share the same common theme. War reshapes human behaviors, destroys moral judgment, and blurs the lines between the victims, bystanders, and the perpetrators. So, through the history, virtual arts, and historical documentation, we can understand not only what happened, but also how people struggled within systems far larger than themselves. Those three pictures are basically where my reference from: the reader, the mouse, and the rap created by Irish John. So the introduction is basically about the three narratives, one history of trauma. The third slide, I want to express that war destroys far more than lives and buildings. It dismantles moral system, ruptures families, and leaves lasting psychological scars. Lectures and feature arts allow us to explore trauma from emotional and aesthetical perspectives that historical data alone cannot prove. So I chose this photo. It's a photo which published in Chinese textbook, so I can see that every Chinese student has seen this photo before, and while I'm a primary school student, I was shocked and even cried when I see this photo. This photo named a children baby named the Wicked, which is created in 1937. So basically, this presentation will focus on two central arguments. The first one is about how war produced deep and long-lasting psychological, emotional, and social destruction extending far beyond the battlefield. The second one is about original individuals often lose anger, say under extreme historical condition, become shaped or even controlled by a fear, ideology, and a collection pleasure. These works help us recognize how fragile human motive can become when placed in an extreme environment. The following was the fourth slides. The first one is about the Philly Marx, which happened in Germany in 1945, and the second one is photoed by Shinju Sato, which created in 1937. These photos has a time gap in about 10 years, but we can see that no matter in Eastern world or Western world, war destroyed people's life and the home they lived. Across all these cases, war happens as a force that destroys not only bodies but also identity, relationships, and social structures. Survivors are often left with lifelong trauma, fractured families, and memories too painful to articulate. Communities lose trust and ethical morals collapse under the pressure of fear and violence. This multidimensional destruction shows that war's true impact cannot be pressured slowly by casualties. It shapes generations, redefines national memories, and permanently alters the emotional landscape of the societies it touches. The first one, which we talked about during the course, is Moss, which used black and white comic arts and animal allegory to portray the Holocaust with both emotional power and aesthetical depth. The choice to depict Jews and mice, Germans are cats, and Polos are pigs cultivates the irrationality of narration and ideology while symbolizing vulnerability and protection. The narrative alternates between Borges' wartime experience and Art's simulus present-day interviews showing how trauma shapes both survivors and descendants. Bird diaries, fragmented memories, and father-son tension all demonstrate that trauma is not confined to one generation. It becomes a long-lasting inheritance. Survival requires moral compromise, and the Valak story illustrates how people under totalitarian rule must constantly negotiate impossible choice. Actions such as barely hiding, manipulating others, or cooperating with authorities are not signs of immoral characters, but expressions of desperate survival strategies. Moss also revealed division with the Jewish community. Some individuals become informants or police under net pressure. This portrayal rejects simplified moral categories and instead demonstrates how extreme environments collapse conventional moral frameworks. The text shows that survival often demands choices that are ethically painful but historically understandable. The second reference is about a movie, The Reader. In The Reader, Hannah is not portrayed as a stereotypical villain. Instead, she is an original, uneducated woman whose intelligence prevents her from understanding the moral and historical implications of her actions. Her obedience to authority and need for structure made her susceptible to Ned's ideology. During the trial, Hannah repeatedly asks, "What else was I supposed to do?" revealing her moral confusion. The novel and film emphasize silence, cold colors, and emotional distance to represent shame and the psychological aftermath of Ned's violence. Her history illustrated how ignorance and conformity can transfer ordinary individuals into participants in systemic harm. Hannah's inability to read symbolized her lack of moral literacy. She cannot interpret the broader implications of her actions. Her conformity to authority reflects psychological studies showing how ordinary people obey harmful commands when placed in rigid system. She does not fully grasp her responsibility even after the war. This ambiguity forces the reader to reflect on how societies produce complicity not through cruelty but through silence, obedience, and lack of critical thinking. This case demonstrates that moral failure often results not from hearted but from ignorance and unexamined conformity. The last reference is about Nanjing Massacre, which represents one of the most brutal episodes of World War II, involving massive killing, rape, forced labor, and destruction carried out by invading Japanese army. Unlike fiction works, this case relies heavily on survivor testimonies, fallen juniors' reports, and archival evidence, giving it a powerful documentary realism. These materials remind us that wartime atrocities are not abstract. They happen to real people whose stories were often silenced. The process of collecting records, revising testimony, and building memories ensures that these acts of violence remain part of the world's collection memory. The story of Kobayashi Kazuharu, a Japanese soldier captured during the war, provides a counterexample to the typical narrative of blind obedience. After experiencing humane treatment and receiving political education, he rejected the militarist ideology and later helped Japanese civilians and prisoners return safely home. His transformation demonstrates that education, empathy, and exposure to alternative perspectives can restore moral judgment, even for individuals once embedded in violent systems. This case highlights the potential for ordinary people to resist historical pleasure if they are given the opportunity to learn and reflect. So, I want to give some conclusion of my reputation. From these three cases, we can see that ordinary people swept by history, war, and ideology remove personal agency. In all three works, individuals are shown as powerless against vast historical forces. Propaganda, fear, obedience, and survival pleasure can overwhelm personal morality. The flagrant truth is that most perpetrators and bystanders were not monsters, but rather original people who failed to resist authoritarian system victims too are shaped by conditions beyond their control, forced into decisions that challenge tradition, understandings of good and evil. These narratives relieve how historical forces often trip individuals of agency, pushing them into roles they never have chosen. And I also want to talk about aesthetic choice, how form shapes memory. Different ethics forms create different understanding of trauma. In most comic panels, symbolic images and fragmented narratives to show that trauma is traumatic, non-linear, and deeply embedded in memory. In the case of the reader, it employs thematic silence called color palettes and minimalist dialogue to invoke shame, repression, and post-war German identity crisis. In the case of Nanjing, Massacre records use documentary photographs, survivor testimonies, and archived documents to emphasize factual accuracy and the moral responsibility of the remembrance. So, the conclusion is about why these stories matter today. From these three cases we studied, we learn. The first one is about the war destroys lives, identities, relationship, and the entire value system. The second one is that ordinary people can become completed when they lose interest in education and the ability to question authority. The last one is that memory, education, and open discussion are essential to preventing future atrocities.